Mercedes experienced a roller coaster ride at last weekend's Hungarian Grand Prix. It's a huge disappointment to have one of the worst cars on Friday be able to put the car on the pole during qualifying and then not be competitive on race day. I suppose Lewis Hamilton is still getting used to his W14. Although he broke a track record by capturing the 9th pole position on this track, the car was far from optimal during the race, forcing him to settle for the modest P4 finish. So, what exactly went wrong for Hamilton? Is this a new problem for the Mercedes W14? If there was one feeling Hamilton had throughout the entire Hungarian Grand Prix weekend, it was a disappointment. Due to his poor start, he lost 3 positions to his rivals on the first lap. That hurts even more when you consider the promising pace the W14 showed in the qualifying on Saturday. After 33 races, Hamilton was able to reclaim the lead and start on the front row. He appeared to have one of the best chances to win a race since his previous victory at the 2021 Counter Grand Prix. And not to be a race winner named Verstappen or Perez, but a poor start from Hamilton and a good start from Verstappen meant that the Dutchman took the race, led outright from turn 1. That move resulted in the 2-time world champion winning yet another race. The Austrian team set a new record with their 12th consecutive race victory. That is not the only reason the 7-time world champion may be disappointed. His disappointment will be due to his W14's lack of pace and the fact that he was unable to secure a podium finish despite starting from pole. Red Bull's Sergio Perez started the Grand Prix 9th on the grid, but made a good recovery drive to finish on the last step of the podium. That drive proved that Perez is here to stay and has no intention of being replaced by anyone else. But let's get back to Mercedes and Hamilton. He finished 4th, just seconds behind the podium finisher Sergio Perez, after losing out to both the Red Bulls and Lando Norris McLaren. So, what is the problem with the Mercedes car now? According to Hamilton, this version of the W14 was supposed to be the worst car he'd ever drive. During the qualifying, he was able to nudge pole position by simply setting personal best selectors. So, from bad to good to worse on Sunday, Hamilton is dissatisfied with how the W14 is performing, as it becomes more difficult to hustle around racetracks. The reason for this could be due to how the car is set up, with the silver arrows focusing on qualifying rather than having a better car like Red Bull. George Russell's massive recovery from P18 disapproves the argument. However, George had to contend with opponents who were no match for the machinery he possessed, while the 7-time world champion had to argue with cars that had a much faster race pace than what his W14 could produce. The 7-time world champion did his best with the tools he was given. Despite the fact that he had a poor start from the line that cost him 3 grid positions, the race did not end there for Lewis, as he was running in P5 at one point, but he was able to show impressive pace towards the end of the Grand Prix, allowing him to overtake the McLaren of Oscar Piastri, who was faster than Hamilton during the first stint of the medium tires. That proved that W14's inconsistency has returned. Lewis Hamilton had to deal with the inconsistency issues at the front, while George Russell had to battle his way to the front from the back of the grid following a disastrous qualifying session. Even before the race, the 7-time world champion was well aware that the Red Bulls were in a league of their own and that his chances of winning were very low. Yet, the Brit stayed positive when he was asked about the possibilities of a potential race win at Budapest. He went on to add, "Anything's possible, but I don't think we have a plan of that sort of leap in place at the moment." Hamilton continued his comments regarding the W14, as his frustration does make sense of being the happiest driver on the grid down to being disappointed with the car's performance. When he was asked where the problem within his car was, the former world champion did not mix and mash up, as he went on to add, the initial getaway wasn't the worst I've ever had. It wasn't as good as Max's start. I had a wheel spin. Then Max was on the inside, he ran me wide, and I got done by the 2 McLarens, like 2015 when I fell back from first. Then I didn't have the pace to keep up with the guys. The balance of the car was awful on the first stint. A lot of understeer. Bit by bit, the car started becoming more drivable, and the last stint was so much better. If we had that pace at the end, we would have been off so much better. Still, taking the positives from yesterday, great for everyone, it was spectacular. We had a lot of work to do. We are a long way off from being Red Bull in a race, and now we're behind the McLarens. We should remind you that the two important heads of the Mercedes racing teams, Toto Wolff and Lewis Hamilton, went in opposite directions when it came to developing the 2023 car. Hamilton, on the other hand, does not want his team to stop now, despite the fact that the gap up to the Milton Keynes outfit is enormous. According to the result of the last 3 races, Mercedes is not even the second fastest team. That honor now belongs to McLaren, one of their customer teams. Toto Wolff was suspicious of Hamilton's chances in Budapest after capturing a surprise pole after 33 dry races to add to his 104th pole total. While the W14 was competitive in Lewis's hands during the qualifying match, the Austrian stated that the Mercedes car remains unpredictable and that Hamilton will have a difficult time controlling the beast on that track. Wolff is much more knowledgeable about the unpredictable nature of the W14, the major factor that caused Hamilton to apologize for losing the lead to Verstappen on turn 1 and losing 2 more places to the 2 McLarens. This has been a source of concern for the Silver Arrow since the implementation of the new ground effect technical regulations, and Hamilton has publicly spoken about the car's direction that the team should pursue. When talking about the W14, Wolff went on to say, "Clearly we have a package today that was competitive, and Lewis just drove an amazing lap and put it on pole. I think there's something we can be really proud of. The biggest weakness we have in the car is not a lack of downforce, is that the car is unpredictable. The drivers never have the conscience to really push it that hard in qualifying, and I think the car they had today was something that gave confidence and allowed them to push without thinking that it could step out on the entrance or exit of the corner." All of these statements ultimately lead to one point in effect. Hamilton is dissatisfied with the way that his car is currently performing, with him even heard to say that it's like a broken tape, repeating the same thing about the car's development direction over and over. Hamilton is always excited to work on the car's flaws in order to turn it into a race-winning machine. However, Wolff's passion declined, as evidenced by his own statements, does not bode well for the Silver Arrows. This demonstrates how differently Hamilton wants his team to approach car development this year and next year. Before looking into the creation of the rumor mills, it is clear that there is a serious clash between Mercedes and Hamilton, which will only continue until the car is up to the championship winning mark. I believe this will continue throughout the summer break until something promising for the Silver Arrows is seen. Hamilton has yet to sign a contract with Mercedes, which does not bode well for the Batgirl-based team. When asked about the car's development, the former world champion went on to say, "We've got to utilize the time we had on track to develop the car that we have and fix those problems. I'm confident we'll get there, it's just a question of how long it will take. The thing we can't see is the airflow throughout the car. That is just limited when you look at the wind tunnel because there's only a certain amount you can actually move the car with." There are stimulations with the new rules that we have and all the new tools we have to create and understand the flow of the structure underneath the car. All of those voitures will blow your mind if you saw what's happening underneath the car, which is a lot different from the previous generation of these cars. Working through that just takes time. This could be interrupted as bad news for Hamilton and his future with Mercedes. That is not due to a lack of ink on paper, but rather to the car failing to meet his expectations. The statements made from the pit lane only made matters worse, as any hopes for a strong Mercedes performance fade with each race weekend. The Hungarian Grand Prix was supposed to be the race in which the Silver Arrows would test the full potential of the new front wing, which had been introduced at Silverstone. With the qualifying pace was encouraging, the race pace will leave many people scratching their heads back at Brackley. Mercedes is not even close to catching Red Bull. While stealing the pole's position will be a significant statement and achievement, the Silver Arrows may be better off consolidating their position as the second fastest car on the grid. While pole may be a good confidence booster, losing 3 positions on the first lap will be a bigger confidence buster, as Hamilton experienced in Hungary. That becomes an even bigger issue when considering how good his teammates' recovery was. This also raises the question of whether Mercedes is truly safe with the P2 on the constructors. McLaren scored 28 points in the Budapest and 30 points in a Silverstone. There are now regular podium fighters posing a threat to the constructors' tally. While that on one side of the story, the other is whether Mercedes will get another shot at the pole and a race win this season. The weekend brings the Belgium Grand Prix, and who knows what the Silver Arrows will find there. With Hamilton dissatisfied with the W14, what kind of challenges do you think he'll face at Spa? And how far do you think he'll be able to push the Mercedes beast around that flat flowing circuit? Don't forget to share your thoughts with us in the comment section down below, and we'll see you in the next video.